Next Pats podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. We are recording after the Patriots and Packers had their dual joint practices this week. We are also recording after we have spoken to the legend, James White, three-time Super Bowl champ, to tell us all about this Ezekiel Elliott signing. We hit you with a podcast earlier in the week to discuss with Matthew Berry the fantasy implications there, and I gave you my take as to why Zeke Elliott is the perfect complement for Ramondre Stevenson. Today, I'm going to tell you even a little bit more about that signing and why, even though Dalvin Cook is the better player, the more dynamic running back at this point in his career, why Zeke Elliott, if the Patriots wanted one specific thing in a free agent running back, why Zeke Elliott is actually the better choice. And it doesn't have to do with the contract than Dalvin Cook. First, let's start with a couple of quick hitting takeaways on some of the young players from these two practices between the Patriots and the Packers. If you want some overall takes on how things went for the Patriots, of course, go listen to our Patriots Talk podcast, myself and Curran. After Thursday's work, Curran and Andrew Callahan got after it after Wednesday's work, but Thursday's practice sounds like the practice of the year, maybe the practice of the last 3 years. That's how good things went for New England out in Green Bay today. And I want to start again with some of the rookies. Let's go to Christian Gonzalez. Got beat for a long touchdown on Wednesday. On Thursday, Tom telling me much better day for the young corner. Had a nice pass breakup at one point. Again, I think this has been a good easing into the NFL process for Christian Gonzalez. And when I say that, this is what I mean. Preseason game number 1. Does he have to go against a true boundary number 1 receiver on the outside, snap after snap? No, he gets Nico Collins. That is dipping your toes in the NFL waters when it comes to going up against the kinds of targets that he's going to face this year. And I thought he handled himself relatively well, aside from getting run over on that one snap early in the game. Now this week, does he have to go against a Devontae Adams or try to run with a Tyreek Hill? No. It's a little bit of an upgrade, but not a massive upgrade, going from Collins to now Christian Watson. Height, weight, speed through the roof, a tremendous athletic battle between the two Christians there. But again, you're slowly working your way into the deep end that is NFL receiver talent. And so he has a little bit of a rough day on Wednesday. He bounces back, has a much better day on Thursday. It sounds like the Packers offense was a real mess on Thursday. I would say that their offensive line sounds as though it was overwhelmed at times by Matthew Judon and co. But some of those pressure plays are because the coverage on the back end is good. And so credit to Christian Gonzalez for bouncing back on day 2. How about Keion White? Keion White had what sounds like one of the most hellacious spin moves on a pass rush late in Wednesday's practice that anyone had seen this summer. This man is quick. This man can move in a straight line. I talked to Matthew Slater earlier this week about Keion White at 290 pounds being on the punt coverage team. Slater, been in the league since 2008. You ever had a 290-pound man on punt coverage? So I haven't had many 290-pound men who can be on punt coverage, but we got one now. And you can imagine just how wide the smile was on Matthew Slater's face after he said that. It just indicates to you how special an athlete this guy is. And we talked about it even before the draft. When Rob Ninkovich was on with us, he told us what the prototypical edge is for Bill Belichick. You have to be smart. That's where Ninkovich started. You have to be versatile. You have to be tough. Check, check, and check for Keion White. It's why we listed Keion White after that conversation with Ninkovich as the fit, according to Ninkovich's description for the Patriots and what they want at that position. Well, not only is he giving them a lot at that position, but they're kicking him inside and he's rushing from the inside. They're using him as a stand-up outside linebacker. They're using him as a hand in the dirt, 4-3 end, a la Dietrich Wise. Now they're using him on the punt team. This guy's special physically. And he got into a little bit of a fight today, it sounds like, with the Packers. And someone threw a punch in his direction. Anthony Jennings comes out of nowhere and sounds like essentially lays a Goldberg spear on the guy before getting kicked out of practice. So he's got the respect of his teammates because he approaches things so seriously and professionally is how they describe it. But physically, Bill Belichick's not going to be able to keep this guy off the field. How about the 3rd round pick, Marte Mapu? The red jersey is off finally for the first time this week, Wednesday and Thursday. There's some great video of these Packers-Patriots practices from Packers fans, believe it or not, that's on Twitter. You can seek some of this stuff out. But one of the plays that I saw that stood out to me was on an end around to a tight end. Marte Mapu coming up and around the edge, shedding a block quickly, throwing a shoulder, and getting right into the ball carrier immediately. And he's had plays like this before in the summer. And I've been wondering, I'll be honest, I've been wondering, does it look like he's flying around because he's wearing the red jersey and because he knows he can go almost at a different rate of speed than some others because he's protected? You're wearing that jersey, you know you're not going to get the kind of block that you would in a different sort of situation, whether it's from a tight end, a tackle, whoever it may be. Well, that one play from Wednesday showed me that, no, that's just who he is. He's pretty explosive getting downhill. And we knew that coming out of the Senior Bowl, coming out of Sac State. It's the reason why the Patriots were willing to take a chance on him in the third round. But that play popped to me. And then there was another play today where he got after a prototypical Patriot at the tight end position. Tucker Kraft, who was one of the most athletic and best tight ends, in my opinion, in this year's draft out of South Dakota State, caught one in the flat, just got lit up by Marte Mapu, it sounds like. Now, you're really not supposed to be hitting with that kind of force, even in joint practices. But I'm not sure it was a wrap-up situation. I think he just got to the ball quickly. There was a collision, and Tucker Kraft had a hard time getting up. This guy can move at 230, maybe even a little bit more than that pounds. So linebacker in sub situations, safety with sort of the third team, that's essentially how he's been used this summer. I haven't seen anything or heard or read anything from him yet that would indicate he shouldn't be out there in 2-minute situations, in third down situations, as a tight end / running back coverage weapon. So good for him on that front. A couple more things really quickly. Let's talk about the receivers. Pop Douglas still can't be covered, apparently. And some of the stuff that you're hearing from Patriots players about Pop Douglas during practice, we're not allowed to quote Patriots players in anything they say, coaches included, while they're on the practice field. But what we can tell you is there's been a lot of emphatic support for Pop Douglas and his physical skill set from veteran guys that have been in the league for a long, long time. And for him to be doing that after one set of joint practices in mid-August, coming from Liberty at 5'8" and a shade under 200 pounds, is eye-opening to me. If you're watching on YouTube, eye-opening. You can't cover him in the one-on-ones. He's working with both Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. He's catching the football, it feels like, every 3 minutes. This guy's going to have a role on this team. He's not only on the team, in my opinion, but he's going to have a role on this team. What that role is, I don't know. Maybe it ends up getting decided by injuries. But if you're talking about 11 personnel, you want to spread things out, Bill O'Brien, go 10 personnel with 4 receivers potentially, get him on the field. He gets open, third down especially. You're third 4, third and 6, sort of on the shorter end of third down, where you don't necessarily need an explosive down the field kind of play, although I think he could give you some of that as well. But somebody who can get open in a phone booth and run a whip route. And Mac Jones is going to understand that he's going to have separation very, very consistently, even though he's just a rookie. That has value. He's going to be out there. Kayshon Boutte, meanwhile, sounds like had a solid 2 days of practice in Green Bay. Started out guns a-blazing on Wednesday, and then maybe sort of trailed off a little bit late in the practice. Thursday, though, early, involved yet again. And so he just needs to be consistent. He did not do much in that preseason game against the Texans, and he got a lot of run. It was not like Pop Douglas, where he played 2 plays offensively, and then Bill Belichick yanked him out. Boutte got a lot of run and was not able to do a whole lot. I think some of that was because of the protection the Patriots had. I think some of that was because Bailey Zappi, quite frankly, was not really all that willing to take chances in that preseason game against the Texans. And I wonder if the coaching staff is going to push him to do more of that in preseason game number 2. That's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye out for when the Patriots and Packers square off on Saturday. Don't turn down the potential explosive play. Don't turn down the 12-yard gain. Stand in there. Be willing to take a hit. I understand the line hasn't been good, but there were a couple plays where he had enough time to take a shot and he didn't. And again, all summer long, he's been dealing with protection issues. So I get it. Maybe start to build some bad habits. but Kayshon Boutte needs Bailey Zappi to be willing to try him on the outside occasionally if he's going to have a chance at making this team. All right, again, for more on these joint practices, NBCSportsBoston.com. Curran has his write-ups from each day of practice. Also, check out the Patriots Talk podcast. I know you're doing that already. Just have to remind you. As far as Zeke Elliott is concerned, I did want to mention a couple of the mailbag questions that we got for this week. It's on NBCSportsBoston.com right now. It is live right now if you haven't read it yet. Got multiple questions about Ezekiel Elliott. People still hot on this signing, and I understand why. Got one from Twitter follower Gus here about Ezekiel Elliott and why maybe the Patriots didn't go after Dalvin Cook. Now, the easy answer is the money, right? And I think it's fair to start there. What Elliott ended up getting was honestly not even all that close to what it was initially reported he would be getting, which I thought was still kind of a bargain. It was initially reported as a $3 million base salary, $1 million signing bonus, the ability to make $6 million max, with essentially $4 million guaranteed. That was the initial report. The actual reporting from our guy, Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, part of the Peacock fam, $1.55 million base salary. That gets dropped to $1 million if he ends up getting hurt in training camp here. But 155 base, $600,000 signing bonus, all kinds of game day roster bonuses, other incentives to get him back to that, again, $6 million maximum value, but to essentially be close to $2 million when it comes to fully guaranteed money for a player like Ezekiel Elliott, who is still, go back to our pod with Matthew Berry, where I lay out why he is such a good fit for the Patriots, who is still a very usable player. That is a bargain. I'm sorry. So the money, fair to start there. But why else might Ezekiel Elliott actually be the better choice for the Patriots than Dalvin Cook? And you're thinking, Perry, you've lost it. And maybe I have. But I got some evidence here that I think is interesting. Now, let me say first, if it had been me, I would have worked to sign Dalvin Cook. He's the more explosive player right now at this point in his career. He's the more dynamic player. I think the Patriots could use as many of those as humanly possible on their roster, period. End of paragraph. But if the Patriots were specifically looking for someone who could help them get the tough yards, I think they got the better back in Zeke Elliott. Toughness, again, that's the word that came back to me when I was asking people in the building about why he's a good fit. Tough. He's a tough player. That's his reputation in the league. That's what he has shown over the course of his career. Tough, tough, tough. If that's what the Patriots wanted, that's Zeke Elliott. And we told you why in the last podcast. And James White will have some thoughts on that as well. But I do want to compare in certain situations, Elliott against Cook. On 3rd and 4th down with 3 yards or less to go for a first down. So 3rd and short, 4th and short situations. Dalvin Cook was barely used by the Vikings, which to me is a red flag right then and there. He had 6 attempts total last season in those short yardage situations. He picked up a first down on 3, so 50% success rate. That was 38th among backs with at least 6 attempts. Ezekiel Elliott, meanwhile, had 29 of those types of attempts, even though he's sharing that backfield with Tony Pollard. And you think of Tony Pollard as the 3rd down back. When it was short yardage, they went to Elliott. He had a success rate of 69%. Nice. 16th among qualifiers. So significantly better than Cook. And again, maybe not even the numbers with Cook in those situations is what stands out. It's the fact that the Vikings didn't even use him. They had others clearly that they preferred in those situations for him to only have 6 carries in that spot. How about on the goal line? More of the same. Elliott was better. 11 attempts from the 2-yard line or closer for Elliott last year. He had 8 touchdowns, positive EPA percentage. So his percentage of plays in those spots that generated positive expected points added. Essentially a good play. 81.8%, 3rd best in the NFL. Dalvin Cook had 9 attempts from the goal line. He had 2 touchdowns, a positive EPA play percentage of 22.2%. Again, significantly better for Ezekiel Elliott. Is Cook the more dynamic player? Can he do more for you, especially in the pass game as a receiver, and maybe be more of a game breaker? Yes, yes, and yes. But if you wanted that tough runner between the tackles, somebody who could take some of those runs off from Andre Stevenson's plate to keep him fresher for the long run, you got the better of these 2 free agent running back options by signing Elliott.
Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you
the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/NBCSB and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/NBCSB.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, or Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit www.mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming or visit www.1800gambler.net in West Virginia.
All right, for more on Ezekiel Elliott, what he'll do for that Patriots running back room, how this fit is being taken in the locker room, how Bill O'Brien can use him, maybe some jumbo pony sets, some Clydesdale sets with Zeke Elliott and Ramondre Stevenson on the field at the same time. Really, James White? Let's get to this great conversation with James right now. All right, there he is. 3-time Super Bowl champion, James White. James, thanks for being with us again on X-Pants, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me once again.
So we got some news here that we got to cover with you. Some running back news that we need to cover with you. Ezekiel Elliott is with the Patriots now. Signing happened a couple days ago. We're recording this on Tuesday night. Sorry, it's Wednesday night. The days, clearly the news is just so exciting for me, James, that the days have started to run together. I haven't slept. But what was your reaction when you saw that Zeke was going to New England?
I thought it was a good signing. I know he took his visit maybe like a week or two ago. I know saw pictures of him and Mac going out to dinner after the visit and whatnot. So I thought it was a real possibility that it might happen, especially after them releasing James Robinson, a few weeks into whatever OTAs, whatever it was. But Zeke still has a lot of tread on those tires. I know a lot of people kind of write him off because he's not rushing for the 1,500, 1,600 yards he once was, his first few years with Dallas. But, he had like 800 plus yards last year, 12 TDs. He's still, a great compliment back. Could still be an every down back if guys want to use him that way. So I think it's a great addition to the backfield.
How far back do you go in terms of your familiarity with Ezekiel Elliott? A couple of Big Ten guys. You and Zeke. I don't know if you would have ever competed against one another, but how long have you followed his career, and what have you thought about the career that he's had and the style that he's brought to the fields, with the Cowboys for 7 years?
Yeah, I mean, I followed him for quite some time, obviously being a fellow Big Ten guy. Now, I wasn't necessarily cheering for him, he was playing at Ohio State, but like I said, everybody was witnessing what he was doing when he was there, breaking off long runs, competing against some of the best colleges in the country, trying to help them win national titles there at Ohio State, and came into the league pretty much doing the same thing, playing for a historic organization like the Dallas Cowboys, jumping right in there and having success. Like I said, leading the league in rushing at some point, ended up being, the highest paid running back at some point. And like I said, he's still been productive. Like he hasn't been, the guy leading the league in rushing, for a few years now, but still ultra productive. And like I said, I think he gets written off a lot because he's not, like I said, rushing for 1,500 yards, leading the league in rushing every single year, which is tough to do at running back. A lot of things have to go, in your favor. Your offensive line has to stay healthy and block properly for you. Quarterback has to perform well. He has to be healthy. Receivers got to do a good job for you as well. So a lot goes into it. And he's gotten banged up a little bit as well. But I think he showed a lot of toughness playing through injuries, especially the last couple of years. I know he's been out there with a knee brace on, still out there going out there trying to help his team win football games. So that lets you know he's a team player right there.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was the one word, just asking some people with the team about, why was Zeke a fit for Bill? And the word that came back to me first was tough. The toughness that he brings to the field. It really feels like that's his reputation. I mean, we've all followed him as NFL followers the last few years. But I won't sit here and say that I've watched every Cowboys game either. But, for you who's watching that position closely, is that his rep? How tough is he? What stands out to you when, we talk about toughness? Why is he considered that kind of player?
I think like in college, when you would first watch him, you would see like the breakaway speed. He was, always like a pretty stocky guy, but you would see more of the breakaway runs. You wouldn't necessarily see him. Like obviously, everybody in college breaks tackles and whatnot, but once he got to the league, he's running through tackles and he's making those long runs. Just a hard guy for defenses to deal with. And I think he's gotten better and better at it as the years have gone on. He's not breaking off the 60-yard runs, every few weeks and whatnot. So he's having to work for the yards. He's putting his shoulder down, getting those tough yards. They put him in goal line situations. He executes that, at a high level. And I think he's even gotten better at pass protection too, as he's becoming more of a seasoned vet, which I think he'll definitely help fill that kind of void for the Patriots as well, which a lot of people may not realize. He's a really good pass blocker.
You did an interview recently with Sirius XM Radio, and you said something along the lines of, Bill used to tell us how much he wanted this guy on his roster, which surprised me. Would he say that kind of stuff to you guys in meetings? And what else might he say about Zeke? And did it make you say, when you saw the signing was happening, all right, well, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world, because Bill has always had his eye out for this guy?
It's not like verbatim, like he would like love the guy, have the guy like on his roster, but when he talks about certain players, the respect. He'll essentially say, like, this guy's like one of the best backs in the league. He does this well. He does this well. He's hard to tackle. Now, whenever you hear a coach speaking like that about somebody else you're going up against, you already know, like, they obviously love to have that type of player on their roster, the ultra productive guy. Like I said, they can play all three downs. First round pick. I said, who's had a lot of success in this league. I mean, a talent like himself, I know he's a little bit older than what he once was, but I said that talent's hard to come by.
You mentioned the toughness, getting those tough yards, the ability to pass protect. I also feel as though, they have a great running back already that they need to try to keep fresh.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson. Is that maybe the most valuable thing that Zeke will bring to the table for them this year, James?
Yeah, I think that's the most valuable thing. Obviously, Ramondre is still going to be the guy. I still think his best football is ahead of him. And I always mention every time I kind of do an interview about the Patriots is he kind of wore down a little bit towards the back half. I'm sure he wasn't expecting to play as many snaps as what he did last year with Damian being banged up a good amount of the year. So I said it's hard, going from playing, maybe 20 snaps a game to playing 40 plus snaps a game. It's tough, and being the ball carrier, playing first, second, third down, it weighs on you for sure. And it kind of got him on the back half. But I think coming into this year, I'm sure he's better shape. He has a better understanding of how it's going to feel, as a workload, being that every down back. But to add a guy like Zeke, who I feel like they're similar in body type, similar type players. Like they're thick guys, but they can run, make guys miss, run guys over. I think they'll work well with one another. And I think he'll give, a lot of great advice to Ramondre of how to last long in this league, how to be a better pass blocker, catch the ball, all that good stuff. I said there won't be any drop-off. Like I said, I think they still have other talent in that room, like with Ty Montgomery. I know he's banged up. JJ, Kevin Harris, Pierre Strong, all those guys, they're a little bit younger, and those guys have been banged up. And I know Kevin and Pierre, the back half of last year, they had some really good plays, where Ramondre getting hurt, Damian getting hurt. They had that big game, I think it was against Arizona and whatnot, where they, took a lot more reps, and they made some huge plays for him. But I think Bill wanted to bring more of a veteran presence in that room, a guy who's done it, a guy who protects the football as well. So I think that's where all that kind of came into place.
Do they need a true third down back, you think, James? Because, you look at these top two guys now in that room, both big, 225, 230-pound guys, but both can also do a little bit of everything, or it seems as though they have that ability. We know Ramondre does. And I know Elliott has done less in terms of the passing game stuff, the third down, quote unquote, third down stuff recently in his career. But do they still need, for instance, Pierre Strong to step up and be that, that sort of scat back type of player, or Ty Montgomery, or is having those two guys, even though they're a little bigger than what we're used to see, there's no James White, 230 pounds, like, hammering it between the tackles on third down, but do they have enough, or do they need that third down back?
I think they have enough. Both of those guys are fully capable of playing all three downs. Like I said, they may not look like, myself or Shane Vereen or Deion Lewis, but even like when Deion Lewis first got there, he played all three downs, was playing the majority of the snaps. So they've done it before. Like I said, Ramondre did it towards the back half of the season. It all kind of just depends, what they feel comfortable doing, how confident they are in the one guy, two guys, three guys. I still think they want Pierre to eventually work into a role like that, I'm sure. And I think this will maybe add a little bit more motivation to him to find a role, find his niche on the team. I don't think they've given up on him just yet. And I think he has all the potential in the world to be a special football player. And I'm sure they're still working at it right now to try and get, the most out of him, because I said that speed that he has, the athleticism that he has, you got to find a way to get that on the field.
If you're Vinny Sunseri, are you trying to come up with, or maybe even Bill O'Brien, are you trying to come up with like jumbo pony packages, James, with these two guys out there? I don't know. What do you call, what is a jumbo? Is it a Clydesdale package? Is that the stallion pack? I don't know what we call that, but would you ever use these two guys at the same time?
Yeah, you definitely could. Like I said, they may be bigger in stature and whatnot, but you can still line those guys up, on the field at the same time. Like I said, Ramondre's been split out wide plenty of times. Zeke has done it throughout his career. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they use that personnel.
Especially with, if Mike Gesicki is a little banged up and you want to get Hunter Henry off the field at some point in time, like that would be actually kind of interesting to me. You could we've seen Ramondre get lined up out wide or in the slot or something. And, maybe you have Elliott in the backfield. It just would be sort of an interesting scenario with those two guys. The last thing I want to ask you, James, because I know you're following from afar, you're not, it's not like you're on the sidelines for joint practices in Green Bay or anything, or out there on the practice fields every day at Gillette. But from what you've seen and heard, are you at all concerned about how the offensive line is taking shape right now? Because they have had issues. They had some issues, it sounds like, again, in Green Bay in terms of being able to protect both Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Do you look at that and say, well, they've got time till they get to week one? Or do you look at it and say, man, the clock is ticking here, that, they basically have got 3 padded practices left that are going to be really competitive, again, 1 against the Packers, 2 against the Titans, before they get to the regular season? They got to get these guys out there and playing together a little bit before the season starts.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't like what you saw during the first preseason game. And I say you hear some of the things that happened during the first, joint practice with the Packers today. When it becomes, consistently inconsistent out there at practice, then it definitely, starts to worry probably, Bill O'Brien, Bill Belichick, Mac Jones, all the quarterbacks when you don't have the protection up in front of you. I think they have veteran presence, David Andrews, obviously when Trent Brown's back healthy, Big Mike in there, he's a talented guy. I think just having all those guys, I know some of those guys, they've, been in and out of practice and whatnot from what I've seen. So just having the chemistry with all those guys on the field at the same time during practice would definitely help a whole lot. I think a missing part of people evaluate offensive line. Like when that same line is out there every single day, it makes a huge difference versus when one guy's in one week, another guy's out the other week. The cohesiveness isn't just the same. We just plug somebody in there. You plug just a random guy in there with 4 veteran guys. I'm sure the chemistry is just going to be off a little bit because offensive line has to be on the same page every single play. The communication has to be there for it all to be a success, even with the quarterback. So it's definitely a little concerning, but I still think they have enough time and they have the right people on the roster to get the job done, protect Mac. But it definitely has to be better, especially during competitive times.
They need the right people on the job. We got the right person for this podcast in James White. James, thanks so much for being with us. Talk a little bit about Ezekiel Elliott, that signing, and how the Patriots are doing. Generally speaking, as they get towards the end of training camp here, it's crazy to think, but we're getting closer and closer to week 1. You're not getting the itch right now to actually get out there and play, are you? I mean, you're enjoying retired life, right?
Yeah, I'm enjoying that retired life. I don't want to be in in Green Bay, Wisconsin, right?
It's beautiful this time of year. So it's December and January where you really don't want to be there, right? It looked okay. It looked okay today. It could be worse.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's not freezing out there, out of Lambeau. It's a beautiful football town. So, but still, my body feels pretty good right about it.
Over under, how many hours has Bill spent addressing the team about the history of Lambeau Field and the Green Bay Packers? Is this like a 2-hour meeting? Is it like a 30-minute meeting? Like how much time has he spent on this, you think?
I don't know. Since they're having joint practices out there, I feel like it might be a little tidbit every other day about, maybe some of the historic players that have played there, or, the history of Lambeau Field. It's a beautiful stadium, beautiful place. Only got to, actually be there one time my rookie year, where we end up losing that game. I was inactive for it, but to take it all in for that night game was a special moment.
I remember talking to players when you guys were at the Greenbrier in West Virginia and hearing about Bill's trying to trying to tell us about the history of the building here and how, it's the bomb shelter in the basement. And like, he likes to seize those opportunities when he gets them. I'm sure players are learning a lot. I'm sure they're learning a lot while they're out there in Green Bay.
100%. You learn a lot about football and about quite some other few things. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's always going to spread information that he knows.
Everybody knows about the Ice Bowl, I'm sure, now out there this week. James, thanks again for being with us, man. This is great.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff there from James White. And sounds like he feels as though reports of Zeke Elliott's demise have been overstated. Plenty of tread on the tires, in his opinion. So will be interesting to see if they need to lean on him more than maybe even they're planning right now. He was an active guy today in that red zone period against the Packers. If they end up having to use him more, how well does he hold up? If something, God forbid, were to happen to Ramondre Stevenson, can he be that guy? Can he be that 200 plus attempt guy that he's been over the course of his career? I think he might be able to. Is he going to give you as much juice as Ramondre Stevenson? Is he going to be the number one back in terms of yards after contact per attempt? Probably not. But he's going to take care of the football. He's going to get you what you need in short yardage and on the goal line. And as a second running back, I think that's more than enough. All right. Thanks so much to James White for joining us here on this edition of Next Pats, our second of the week. We're loading you up with Zeke intel, some practice intel as well, and some thoughts from me on how these young guys are contributing. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back at it next week. I'll be in Nashville for joint practices between the Titans and the Patriots. Curran had the Packers and the Patriots. I think he pulled the short straw because I get to go to Nashville. We're going to have some fun out there. We'll be potting for sure, many times over, I'm sure. Keep an eye out for those. We'll talk to you then.